Hello everyone, I'm Abby. Imagine an occasion. 5 cave explorers are trapped in a cave. The cave is located in such a remote place that rescue was extremely difficult. On the 20th day of being trapped and having run out of food, rescuers finally learned that the explorers had carried a wireless communication device with them and could communicate. The medical experts in the rescue team told the explorers that the possibility of them surviving long enough for the rescuers to successfully reach them inside the cave was extremely slim. One of the explorers, Whitmore, suggested selecting a sacrificial victim by casting dice, allowing the other 4 to kill and consume his flesh. One of the explorers, Whitmore, suggested selecting a sacrificial victim by casting dice, allowing the other 4 to consume and kill his flesh. In such stressing circumstances, the other 4 agreed. Faced with such a cruel proposal, all of the explorers repeatedly discussed the mathematical problem of ensuring fairness in a lottery. However, before the dice was cast, Whitmore announced that he renounced the agreement. The other explorers convicted him of going back on his word and insisted on proceeding with the throw. When it was Whitmore's turn, another explorer cast the dice on his behalf. And unfortunately, the outcome was that Whitmore was chosen, and he was eaten. Illustrated by Lon Fuller, a prestigious legalist in the 20th century. The whole legal academic community believes that this is the most significant and the most paradigmatic legal hypothetical ever recorded. Professor Peter Suber collected 14 separate judicial opinions authored by 14 justices in a book called The Case of the Shuxuan Explorers. I initially thought it is solely explaining things and opinions from diverse dimensions, but later on I figured out that this case reflects some inner essence of our society and the operating mechanisms of our whole society. You may change your perception to our society and the law after today's talk. We often harbor 2 conflicting impulses on statutory provisions and the law. On one hand, we expect them to remain objective and neutral. On the other hand, we expect them to represent rationalness rather than occurring due to conflicts or provocation. This contradiction is built upon the possibility that human beings can coexist in our society. In the occasion that people cannot coexist, all of our former examples and premises that law depends on will cease to exist. In the occasion that those cave explorers figured out they're facing a survival dilemma and they cannot coexist, their only hope is to consume their flesh. All the premises and examples that law depends on will cease to exist. Regardless of the specific objectives that law depends on, their cardinal aim focuses on rehabilitating and advancing the conditions of human coexistence. In addition, it is to coordinate interpersonal equality and justice within our society. The case that inside the cave is not only a crime scene, but also the birthplace of our society. You may consider that there is actually some extra details inside the cave, that this leads to a societal philosophy that whether these human life truly possess absolute value. And does human life truly possess absolute value in any conceivable circumstances? I will provide you some extra details about the case. During the operation to remove the rocks blocking the cave entrance, 10 rescue workers lost their lives. Some of us might assume that these 10 individuals sacrificed in an attempt to secure the survival of the explorers. Then, by this very logic, the arrangement of those explorers to sacrifice one life to save 4 cannot be deemed inherently wrong. Thus, disputes are formed that some of us will insist the non-sacrificability of human life and equality. There is, of course, no absolute answer because the human life and equality of our society is often varied in different situations. Every highway we design, every tunnel we bore, every skyscraper we built may endanger the life of the workers. When aggregated, professional statisticians are able to tell you how many workers will be sacrificed in the construction of the whole process. However, will you bear these costs? You might say you will, right? And will you stop the construction due to the sacrifice? You might say you won't, right? So we deliberately bear these costs, to be honest, because we believe that the living quality far outweighs these losses. This leads us to another societal philosophy that will back to the case that these explorers are actually convicted of murder. So, are they really deliberately killing Whitmore or not? They actually did not intentionally choose to kill Whitmore, but they did deliberately select a dice throwing method and killed the selected individual. In these circumstances, some of us might assume that we can find something in statutory provisions called necessary defense that constitutes instinctive reaction, panic behavior, and also error in judgment. This leads us to think, in the extreme conditions like these explorers, they might have some panic behavior and instinctive reaction, and also error in judgment. This also leads us to think in the occasion that in the extreme conditions like the explorers, whether you would like to choose death or to endure death. Here's another hypothesis that people may provide. Providing nobody is willing to be the volunteer to sacrifice, nobody would like to provide their own arms or legs to the others. People may consume their own legs and arms and toes, and then waited for the rescue teams to come. Well, this hypothesis is reasonable, but absolutely not practical due to the occasion that these explorers were facing. Let's imagine, will you prefer to choose directly death or to endure death? To endure your own harm of losing your legs, your arms, and your toes without anesthesia. These points provide us the notion that law will understand people under some extreme conditions, that the goal of law is not only to punish, but also to understand people under these occasions, to distinguish hostile and some necessary defense and some emergencies. So I would like to make a final summary of the whole speech. The law is like a spectacular river that flows from deep inside a human soul and spiritual desire, giving form and shape to the inner philosophy and combination of human beings. Well, let us end today's speech not merely with knowing law, but also in pursuance of perpetually prolong the locus of justice and integrity. May we have the courage to challenge injustice, be it ever so minute, and to remember that the life of every individual are held sacred. That's all. Thank you for listening.